Hi, I'm Casey, and I'm doing Camp NaNoWriMo. Uh, it is June 30th as I'm recording this, about 4 p.m. And I kind of decided last minute what my Camp Nano plan is going to be for July this year. So my goal is to write an hour a day, every day on my current project. And my current project, I'm calling it Project PM. And it is a young adult contemporary coming of age situation that has elements of like queer romance and getting your life together and coping with anxiety, and I love it a lot. So here's the plot summary, book blurb, whatever, for Project PM. High school senior and newly minted basketball captain Niall Daniels is on track to play D1 basketball at the university of his dreams next fall. When a snap decision and a snapped Achilles tendon leaves him sidelined, Niall, against all odds, is relieved. Now the pressure's on to find a new course for his future, one that fills him with joy instead of anxiety. Along the way, Niall will have to grapple with making his own path forward, prioritizing himself and what he wants, and finally learning to trust the music in his heart. How long have I been working on this project? It depends, because this current iteration of it I've been working on since last August 2022. But really, I've been working on some version of this story with these characters since 2013. So it's a draft 1, but it's a draft 3, but it's a draft 7, but it's maybe more than that. Project PM is kind of a draft 1 from the standpoint of I overhauled the plot and wrote an outline, and this is outside of the discovery draft that I did before fully doing the outline. This is the first draft. But it's really like a third draft with the kind of convoluted way that I've been counting different drafts of this. But really, it's like at least the 7th draft. The version of it that I started writing in 2013, I consider draft 0. And then, which is complete and will never see the light of day again. Then there's the lost draft, a draft that I believe I finished, but it got lost on a computer that stopped turning on. It was really old. Then there's first draft, which kind of built off of the lost draft, but made a little more sense in this, on a computer that I actually had access to. But then I changed enough things about that draft to make a second draft. And then that second draft turned into a draft 2.5, which really has another draft buried somewhere in it, because draft 2.5 I was working on from 2018 through 2022. So there's at least 2, I'd say, major versions of it within that 2.5. And now we're on this current draft. I decided to overhaul the plot on it last August, did a little work figuring out like, okay, what do I want this to look like? Because like previous iterations had like multiple points of view. We were focusing on one of the now minor characters more than we currently are. There were a lot of elements within it that aren't being used anymore. So I like parsed through all of that to figure out, okay, I need to, it was too complicated. I was trying to finish it. It was, again, this was draft 2.5, which I had worked on for 4 years and was trying to make work, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working. It wasn't working. And finally I sat down and was like, okay, why is it not working? And Then I stripped away all the extra stuff and just really got to like the heart of the story that I'm trying to tell. And that question there really was like, what do you do when the thing that you have been working towards, the future that you have been working towards for years and years and years, isn't feasible anymore? What do you do? How do you pivot? How do you take the opportunity to learn how to like take care of yourself the way you deserve to be taken care of? I took that and I ran with it. Did a little bit of made like surface level plotty stuff. Started writing a discovery draft, which I wasn't calling a discovery draft at that point. I was like, let's go write this thing. And just kind of, but really it is a discovery draft. I have figured out that I am one of those people that has to like get in there and just like I will have scenes, specifically dialogue within scenes, just like drop into my head and then I will put it on the page, give it a little more context and use that to just figure out who these characters are, what do they want, where are they going, what is happening here. So I discovery drafted for a bit and then decided to do something that was fairly new to me, which was to figure out all of the plot and write an outline. And like I have done like intermittent plotting in the past, specifically like when I would get stuck, be like, okay, let's take this back, figure out what we're doing. And it's kind of worked in the past. It kind of hasn't worked in the past because I don't think I was doing it the way I needed to be doing it. So I really like studied up on different plot structures, like the regular 3 act structure, the 7 plot point structure. I looked at Save the Cat, those beats, and the 3 act 9 block 27 chapter, and I kind of like came up with a conglomeration of all of those things. Just kind of fused them together to be able to figure out the way I want the plot to go. And I also did like I had all these ideas of like different events that happened, but I didn't really know when they wanted to happen. So I like made a big note chart. Well, first I did a really sloppy one in a composition notebook. Let me go find it because it looks insane. There we are. So yeah, I just started listing like, okay, I know we start here and I know I want this to happen next and then this and then this and then up here is relatively straightforward and then like as it goes down it just gets messier and messier. So I had like all of these events and I'm like, I know this happens and this happens and this happens and this has to happen like near this time because it's December and there's snow on the ground and stuff like that. And just like figured out all of that, which was very helpful. And then I like made a version of it with piece of like 9 by 12 drawing paper and a bunch of post-it notes. That was really fun. Love post-it notes. It's in storage right now where I said show it to you. I also made a digital version of it with this app called Miro. It's like a whiteboard app almost, and it's meant to be like a very collaborative, like brainstorming environment. But I just kind of use it to like here is a flowchart of all the events that happen and the arrows and all of that. And there's also like calendars of the like year and a half that the story is going to cover because I love a good calendar being like, okay, I know this happens on this day, and then this is on this date, and this, oh, that's a Saturday. That's good to know. Stuff like that. But I did all that, figured out the plot points that I wanted to do, and then started writing a very rambly, like almost like a skeleton draft outline, kind of just brain dumping in a Google Doc. And that Google Doc is now like 19,000 words. Because there were definitely plot points where it's like I already know like what I want this conversation to look like and put that dialogue in there and stuff like that. So I did that and then I started drafting while I was finishing grad school, actually. So balancing, plotting and outlining and then writing my thesis at the same time. So much fun. But now we are like fully focused on drafting. I am currently like part of the way through Act Two. I'm at like 41,000 words. I think this is going to be about 90,000 words once it's all said and done. Y'all, I love this story. I love this story so much. I'm obsessed with it, which is good. I think I think all writers should be obsessed with their projects. I think all creatives should be obsessed with what they make. But yeah, so that's what my plan is for Campano July 2023. And I'll have the link to my Nano profile down below if you want to come check in on my progress and see how it's going. Thanks, y'all.